So can you tell me, Dimitri, what the concept infinity entails?
Infinity is a mathematical concept that says there is no limit to something. So if you start counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you keep carry on, there's always a number, whatever much you've counted. So you can end up being 6,061,000,061, 6,062,000,062, and so on. And there is no end, so in this sense numbers are infinite.
But there is a beginning from which you start, and that would imply that on one side there is an end, whereas the other, it doesn't end.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's actually for you to pick for counting. Yes, there is a beginning, and you can start from 0 or you can start from -50. For some numbers, there is no beginning even, and you cannot say, I can make a list of an infinite list of numbers, like real numbers. If you start like root of 2 or pi or something like this, there is no limit to those. Neither from the beginning nor from the end.
But wouldn't you say that if it does have a beginning, then it's not properly infinite? Because on one end it's finite.
Infinity just means there is no limit, so that there is no end. The beginning can be all you want. You can say the number of stars in the sky is infinite. You still start counting from some star, aren't you? It's not like you just look at those stars and say, I don't even know where to begin. Whereas if you look at the circle, you can pick any point to begin your journey.
Are you familiar with Candel's theory of bigger infinities?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you like to say something about that?
There are two types of infinity. There is a countable infinity and uncountable infinity. So, numbers are countable. You can count them. And you can say scientifically that, okay, countable infinities is like one big sort of a group. And you call it Aleph Not, using Jewish letters. And then you go bigger and say, well, if they're countable, they surely must be uncountable, and you call them Aleph 1. It's like a bigger set, like a way bigger set. For Aleph 1, there is infinite amount of numbers between 0 and 1, or 1 and 2. Or between any two numbers, there are infinitely many. That's the bigger and smaller infinities. It's all theory, I mean. It's not necessarily the matter of physical universe. Universe is infinite in volume, perhaps.
The infinite can only know the infinite. Would you agree with that?
Not really. I mean, the very fact that we came up with the concept of infinity being finite ourselves means that we can comprehend it.
Really?
In a sense that we can make a theory. People are not very good at comprehending big things. You might say you...
Or very small things.
Whatever you haven't happened to experience in real life is not pretty conceivable, I should say. If I tell you, hey listen, I have 10 trillion pounds, do you know how much really this is?
No.
That's the thing.
But that was my point, that we can't comprehend.
No, we can still make theories nonetheless, We couldn't comprehend what the Earth looks from the orbit before we, build a rocket. And it was necessary for us to have some idea as to what happens beyond our Earth to build one.
Well, Kant had something to say, didn't he, about infinity, and in terms of understanding. To understand is to be able to schematize it, which means to render the abstract determinate. So, for instance, the concept of square can be understood by giving an example of square, but the concept of infinity can never be rendered determinate because we can never give an example of infinity. But I suppose you just did, in a sense, in terms of an infinite series of numbers. So in that sense, can it be understood?
You can have shapes of infinite volume or infinite area or infinite length. If you look at fractals, for instance, they have finite area.
What are fractals? Explain what fractals
Fractals are, well, put simply, are shapes that no matter how much you zoom in, you still end up with the same shape. So, for example, if I have a triangle on the sides of which there is another triangle and another and so on. So no matter how much I zoom in, I will still see triangles.
So what's our conclusion in terms of infinity? What is infinity?
Well, it's something that has no limit. If you have infinite happiness, congratulations. You will never run out of being positive. Some people have infinite energy to, well, sort of infinite energy to move their ideas forward where everything is against them, but that's more of a metaphorical term, of course.
This was brought to you by the Philosophy Takeaway in Oxford.